All right. So if you want to generate 6 to 7 figures per month for your e-commerce brand, like my clients do, through just your email list, so that's $0 in ad spend, keep watching this video. Here's some proof to back that up, which I'll dive deeper into in a second. But first, let me explain this email marketing system. So most brands, they send emails that no one will click, or they get too creative instead of doubling down on what works, because they don't even know what works, right? So it's not about recreating what your favorite brands are doing. One, because what they're doing might not work for you. Two, just because you think something looks cool doesn't mean it will actually convert. And three, they might not even know what they're doing. So if you've been inside a lot of these bigger brands, a lot of times they're not even optimizing for what's actually going to convert the customer. That's not even something that crosses their mind. A lot of times it's interns running it or people that are really trying to create things. A lot of the work that's being done is meant to like impress people that are senior to them in their company. And there's just a lot of moving parts, and the final product has nothing to do with what actually converts. So I'm talking about a system that works for brands that rely on email specifically to generate real revenue with $0 in ad spend to grow their brand, beat their competitors, despite acquisition costs continuing to rise. And of course, you're still gonna love what the emails look like, and your customers will too. So here's like a bunch of the stuff that you'll be sending us in Slack once we start working together. And the reason these emails convert so well is because they're the optimal hybrid of on-brand design and direct response copywriting. So we want both. We want them to look good. We want them to be on brand, and we also want to be using the angles and the type of copywriting that actually gets people to click onto the email and add the item to cart and actually place an order, right? So the best part is, as long as you implement what I'm about to show you, it will start working right away. So there's no ramp up process or anything like that. Even if your current strategy is nothing like this, so you could be doing everything wrong right now, 1 minute, and then the next minute you can start doing everything right and start seeing results like what I'm showing you here. So this isn't just theory. Like me, you've probably spoken to, maybe you've even hired marketers who have all sorts of ideas and opinions, and they don't have any significant data to back up what they think you should do with your brand's most valuable asset, which is your email list. So the system I'm showing you has generated millions of dollars for our clients, and it's 100% repeatable for any e-commerce brand making at least $100,000 a month. So here are some examples of this. So if you're familiar with the Klaviyo dashboard, you know that that's the total 30-day store revenue. That's the amount that's being made through Klaviyo, specifically through your email list. So in this case, that's 43. It's about 44% of this brand's revenue is being generated through email. Here we have 41, so about 42% that's being generated through email. And here we have about 45% that's being generated through email. And all of these are 30-day numbers from not too long ago. And here are some examples of individual email results. So once again, this works even if you've been doing everything wrong up until now. So here's a supplement brand that was doing about $6,000 through email, which was 4% of their total revenue. And we got them close to 70,000, which is about 46% of their total revenue. And here you can see that percentage increase compared to where they were at before. Here's another example. So this brand was doing 136,000, only 8,000 through email. And then we got that 8,000 to 104,000, and even their total revenue, we can see that being transferred over to the total. Because a lot of times you'll see the email revenue go up, but the total revenue stays the same, which like, what's the point of that? All you've done is increase the attribution. But here we see that everything goes up once we increase the email revenue as well. So this system works best if you're already generating about $100,000 a month through e-commerce. Have at least 10,000 profiles on your email list. Sometimes we can get away with like 5,000 or so. And that directly subscribe through your website. So don't do anything like buying email lists from some random company or whatever. Just get traffic to your website. They specifically opted in from like a pop-up, from your footer, or through buying a product, something like that. So that's how our clients are able to generate up to half of their e-commerce revenue just through their email list, $0 in ad spend, keeping your brand thriving while competitors drop like flies due to rising ad costs. Okay, let's get into the details now. So the 3-part email marketing system. Instead of sending random emails based on what you think looks cool, you'll now focus on 3 buckets of emails. This is a sending schedule of 12 to 16 emails per month, which is about 3 to 4 emails per week. Your content mix should start as customer focused. So this is specifically focusing on not talking about your product, focusing on what your the customer's problem, what their desires are, what their dream outcome is. Everything to do with the customer is how we're gonna hook those emails, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in a bit. Then we can go product focused, though you're going to have product aware people. So then that's where you can go into the benefits, the features, social proof, stories, transformations involving your product. Then we have content focused. So this 15% component of your strategy. When I say content, all I mean is that even if they don't buy anything, they're still getting something out of opening the email. So this could be some kind of entertaining content, educational content, something that makes them glad they opened that email, even if they don't do anything further. And this is going to keep them opening your emails into the future. And 5% is where you test new things. So this is where maybe you just see your competitor do something, one of your favorite brands do something, and then you copy that. So that there's room to test new things. And if it happens to be a banger, then great, you found something that works. Now it becomes a part of your main strategy. Okay, so let's go into the details. So customer focus, show that you understand your list, desires, problems, pain points, and describe them better than they could. When you present your product, they automatically perceive it as their best and only option. If you can show that you understand them, they will trust you. So showing that you understand your customer is more important than what your product does. So why is that? Your list has problem-aware profiles who care less about what specifically the product is and more about having their problem solved, right? So if their problem is acne, what they care about is solving that problem. They don't care if they have to use a cream. They don't care if they have to use a supplement. They don't care if they have to stand on their head for 20 seconds or whatever. Whatever the mechanism of the solution is irrelevant. They just want their problem solved. So if you can show up with a solution to their problem enough times, you will get it into their head that you are able to solve their problem. Doesn't even at that point, it's irrelevant what the product is. Then we do have product focused emails. So this addresses the people who do care what the product is. So these are solution aware profiles on your list. So maybe they've tried the other products and it hasn't worked for them. So now they specifically want to believe that your product is the solution to their problem, right? So these are solution aware profiles. If they opted into your list, they at least have some level of belief that your product works. In fact, they want to believe that it works. If you really have a problem, you are biased into thinking that things are going to work, right? That's how your brain wants to work. They naturally want to believe you. Now they're just waiting for you to give them that good excuse. So they could be hanging on your list until the right time, even if they don't buy right away. And each email makes them more excited for the day that they finally do. So you just continue following up with these kind of product-focused emails just to keep yourself top of mind. Then we have content focus. So this can be information, it can be entertainment. Make your list feel like they gain something from opening and consuming your emails, even if they don't buy. This is what keeps them opening until the time is right. So these could be either unaware, these could be problem aware, these could be even solution aware that just haven't gotten around to buying yet. And new tests, like I said, this is where you can take risks, like trying something new and unvalidated, whether they're just random ideas you had or something you saw other brand do. If you uncover a banger, then make it a regular in your content strategy. And here are just other ways of looking at this. So 2 things that happen as the stages of awareness increases. So obviously they become more aware, but they also become more sophisticated. So when they're at a low level of awareness, this is when you can just make any claim and people just believe it. So these are like the early days of Facebook ads where you can just be like, lose 10 pounds in 3 days. People will click and buy. As the market sophisticates, those kind of claims no longer work. So now you have to make bigger claims. You have to introduce specific mechanisms, specific solutions because they've tried other solutions. So you have to come up with something different. And then you have to create better versions of those solutions. So once everyone is launching a creatine supplement, you have to make yours, maybe with cleaner ingredients or better packaging or in better forms. Maybe you do gummies instead of powders, those kind of things. And so that's just something to keep aware. So this is why we test different things. And once you find something that works, then you've uncovered the level of awareness that you're targeting with your emails. Okay, so to never run out of email ideas. So the number one tip I can give you to never run out of email ideas is stop overthinking what you should send emails about. if that results in you sending less emails. Okay, so most of the times, your bottleneck is going to be you're not sending enough emails, right? So if all of what I showed you so far is causing you to like overthink your strategy, and that results in sending you less emails, it would have been better if you just sent something as opposed to nothing. So let's just talk about the ways to shift the way you think about emails, right? So stop worrying about sending too many emails. I'll get into why you don't need to worry about that. There was a time in the past where that was more of a worry. These days it isn't, and I'll explain why. So the two goals of each email: one, pre-frame the customer's mind, and win the click. That's it, right? So you're not trying too hard to convince them about that the product works or anything like that, because all you're trying to do is get them onto the product page. The product page does the rest of that work. So all you care about is pre-framing them. So that's just to prevent, don't just do some random clickbait where if they click and then they have no idea what's going on. So pre-frame them in the correct way so that once they land on the product page, they know what's going on. And two, get them to click. So a lot of times you can even leave out information and then say, for all the details, click below, and then you get them to click onto the buttons. I'll show you examples of that. Another point, improve one bottleneck at a time in the right order. And the caveat is if you're already mostly doing things right. So the number one thing you care about is sending enough emails. Once you're sending enough emails, then your goal is to improve the amount of people that are actually opening those emails. Once people are opening those emails, then you want to improve the number of people that are actually clicking the emails. Once that's happening, then you try to get more revenue per click, right? So the caveat that I mentioned here is make sure you're already doing everything right, because if your deliverability is trash because you're not doing something right, and then you send more volume, then you might be doing more harm than good. So the caveat there is if you're already doing everything right, solve one bottleneck at a time and start with volume. Okay, so rely on proven data and a proven strategy, not intuition. We already talked about that. And remember that results come in aggregates, not always in individual emails. So we're going to talk about what makes a good email. And my point here is, you might say like, oh, I followed something you said and we split tested it and it didn't make a difference. So sometimes it'll make a difference in one split test like that. What you're really looking for is results in aggregate. So if you do something correctly for 30 days and you compare that with doing it incorrectly for 30 days, that 30-day aggregate of emails where you followed a better strategy is going to outperform the aggregate of 30 emails where you did it incorrectly. So a specific example like that is, for example, we like having the buttons high up in the email, because if someone only opens this part of the email, they'll see there's something to click on right away. That might not make a difference for one email, but if in aggregate, over the hundreds of emails you send, if you win a few extra conversions here and there, it's going to make a difference in aggregate. And each of those improvements that you make across each of those emails across time on a long enough time horizon will make an aggregate difference. So think in aggregates, don't think specific emails. So after working with 7 to 9 figure brands across all e-commerce niches, generating, what did I just do here? Generating up to half their e-commerce revenue through their email list, we've dialed down the process for coming up with email ideas that work for every niche. Method 1, steal from your competitors. I know I said this is an example of what not to do, but here's how to do it correctly. So copying other brands and repurposing their emails can work if you know how to find brands that send the 4 type of emails that I mentioned above or get close. So now that you know what kind of emails to send, look for brands that do this. Don't just look for brands that you like. Don't just look for brands that send emails that you think look cool. Look for brands that do this or get close. And the reason I say get close, so subscribe to 100 plus brand newsletters, check your inbox every day, star the emails you find that contain what I mentioned above. And the reason I say the ones that get close is that you want to learn how to find emails that are 50 to 80% right, and you want to learn how to improve them to 100%. Okay, so every minor aspect of your company and your product can turn it into its own email topic. So method 2. So your product pages are already probably teeming and overflowing with email ideas that you have not trained your eye to see yet. So every ingredient can be an email of its own. Each review can become multiple emails of its own. Each bullet point, everything can become an email topic. So there's like a story about this beer company that outperformed all their competitors, made a bunch of sales just by mentioning something they do in their manufacturing process. Turns out every beer company does this. This brand just mentioned it, and sounded fascinating to all their customers, and they were like, oh, I want the beer where they manufacture it that way, and then they started buying it. It wasn't anything unique at all. This one company was just thought to mention it when everyone else was just like, oh, this is just like a normal thing, why would we mention that? So it's a completely normal thing that all of those beer companies do, but just by mentioning it, they made a ton of those sales. So I've just listed a bunch of examples here: features, benefits, ingredients, risk reversals, reviews, tags, social posts on your Instagram. So every process, every step of your manufacturing process is an email idea. Stories, right? So the origins of products, your brand milestones, mistakes that you made. It's all like, we messed up this deal, so we're doing this, blah, 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 that kind of thing. How much effort. So if your team where you stayed up all night trying to fix something on the product page, send an email about that. Say we stayed up all night fixing this for you. So here, blah, blah, check it out. Funny and entertaining, funny things that happened that day. Create that community aspect around your brand. So each of these becomes an individual email idea, and each of these ideas can branch into more micro ideas. If you know what you're doing, you should feel like you have more email ideas than you could possibly ever send. So that's kind of like the litmus test for if you're thinking about this right. You should always feel like there's more email ideas than emails you could possibly send over the lifetime of your brand. You should be operating from that abundance of ideas. And use proven evergreen angles. So the kind of angles that I've been working in marketing since the beginning of time, there's no logical reason they'll ever stop working. Social proof is always going to work. Best sellers, so the concept that I want to buy things that other people are already buying, is always going to work. People are always going to have pain points. People are always going to be intrigued to learn things. People are always going to want to know how to use products. Scarcity and urgency, so people use that interchangeably, but scarcity is when you have a limited supply. So like this email here, there's only 391 left. Urgency is limited time, so something like, oh, Cyber Monday's here and it's going to be ending soon after a certain amount of time. Questions answered. When you do FAQ emails, make sure that they're actual questions that are commonly sent by customers to customer service. A lot of times you see FAQ emails and you read the questions and you're like, I know that no customer is actually asking this. The brand is just making up questions that they want to answer and just sending that. It's really obvious when you do that. So make sure you answer questions that your customers actually have. So writing email copy that converts. So let's talk about copywriting. So there are 3 parts to email copywriting that actually moves product. So you want to have a research index, which I'll explain. You want to follow the right format, the header, body, proof format, and you want to use this checklist, the what, why, how, proof checklist. So first, start a research index. Open a blank document. I can make an entire video just on this. So if there's enough interest, I'll do that. But just to give you a high overview of what this looks like, just open up a blank document, list everything there is to know about your market, list everything there is to know about your products. So list all your products, and under each of those, list everything there is to know about each product. List everything there is to know about your company. Get creative, make other lists as relevant. This could be different for each brand, and use these as fodder to come up with email ideas and copywriting angles. So keep this running at all times. Once you see performance outliers, keep repeating what was successful. Your strategy should feel boring. Like a lot of the brands that do email well, the strategy looks boring because they're just doing the things that works over and over and over and over and over again until it stops working. And then in the meantime, they've also been testing enough new things so that they're able to pivot once one of the older things are not working as well as they used to. So there's this natural flow of things. So here's like an example of this. So the story of Henry Ford. Walks past his office, seeing the next campaign being created. Finally, he's had enough. Hey, when are we going to stop running that ad? I'm tired of seeing it. Director smiles. Sir, we haven't even launched it yet. You'll get bored of your stuff before people even know you exist. So don't allow the thought of, oh, we've been sending emails like this way too much. Rely on the data. If it keeps working, you should keep running it. Think about it the same as like any other kind of ad, right? Facebook ads. If an ad is working well, you're going to keep running it. You're not going to stop running it just because you're bored of it, right? So the header, body, proof format. So the header, the top portion of your email, this is what people see when they open the email and without needing to scroll. So this is what 80% of your openers actually see. Most people are not scrolling through the email, right? Most people are opening the email, and if it doesn't intrigue them, they're going to swipe to the next one. So this should convey the entire email, even if they don't scroll. Make sure you make them want to scroll, but give them to click, assuming they don't. So assume they're not going to scroll, but make them want to scroll. Body, use this to convey the rest of the info and more details for the profiles that are interested enough to scroll down and consume the rest of your email. And proof, always have proof. Back up everything you just said in your header and body with proof. Usually this is going to be a product review. It can also be like a screenshot from a scientific study if it's like a supplement or something like that. Usually it's going to be a review. And make it relevant to the claims they just read. So don't just have like a random review attached to the end of your email, which is honestly better than not having a review, but make it relevant to what you just said. So here's an example, right? So here's an example of a header. So we have a picture of the bins. We said your ultimate lifestyle bins. That's what we have to say about these bins. And then here's where you can click and shop it. Okay, so even if that's all they see, that's enough info to get them to click this. Then in the body, we get into detail, right? So storage that works with your lifestyle, lightweight, versatile, beautiful. The best storage feels natural. It brings a sense of calm and order to your home. Now we're getting into more details, and we're continuing to give them CTAs to click everywhere they go. You want to give them something to click. Storage is ever evolving as you and your space. Flex bins are ready to try something new. Click there, another image there, and then proof, right? So here's a review for these bins. Very useful for storing items I access daily, like my socks in my tiny apartment where everything stays in view. So here's like a specific review that's backing up the specific claims we're making. So it's useful for storing items I access daily, which goes with the idea of your ultimate lifestyle bins. It goes with everything that we're claiming in the body section, and it goes with all of the images. So there's a lot of congruence to the email, right? It's not just like mismatched it's not like a mismatched conglomeration of random images and corporate sounding marketing-y copy, right? So let's go into the checklist. So you want your copy to address the what's the main claim you're making. For example, our supplement helps with sleep. Why should they care? So sleep improves every other part of your life. How is the promise achieved, which is usually by the product? Our supplement contains melatonin. Proof. So a review from a customer saying that the supplement helped them with sleep. So make sure each email checks all of these boxes. This order actually works pretty well. So starting with what, then moving to why, then moving to how, then moving to proof. That works well, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in that order. Sometimes we'll have like a review right at the header, and then so the order is less important, but typically it's in this order. If you know what you're doing, this checklist can be applied to any niche. Like there's no possible example of a story you could give me where like you wouldn't want to have a claim, you wouldn't want to explain why they should care, you wouldn't want to explain how it's achieved, like even like a call to action at least. And there's no possible argument against providing proof that it works. There's no reason why every single email shouldn't have like a testimonial or a review. There's just no argument against it. It takes up such little space, and it does so much for the email. Like the entire rest of the email could flop, and that one specific testimonial could save the email, right? So here's some bad examples. All they had to do here was like add a button, because if someone sees this and they're like kind of confused about what this is, they don't really remember. Even like a learn more button would outperform what this is here. And here, I think they use live text instead of like designing everything in one platform like Figma. So that just makes it look a little less professional. So here they have an image here, and then they have live text here, and then they have like this weird watermark here. There's no header, there's no subheader, there's no call to action, which is the biggest mistake they made here. This one looks good. Main thing here is they don't have any testimonial. So it would have been so easy to just have like a 2-sentence testimonial down here, and there's no possible argument against doing that. Like there's no situation in which having a testimonial in this email would cause it to make less money. And again, especially when we think in aggregates, right? So if they're missing a testimonial in this email, there's probably hundreds of email they're missing it in. And if you tell me that having a testimonial in hundreds of emails isn't going to make a difference, you just don't know what you're talking about. There's just no way that that's true. Okay, so let's do one more. This one, the offer, is just confusing. So what is take? Okay, so up to 70% off, but also an extra 20% off maybe here for a limited time. So it's just very confusing. So what you could have done here, this just makes me not want to click, right? Because as soon as I click, I know I'm going to be confused. I'm going to be like, okay, what is it, 70%? Is it 20%? Like, how do I get the 20%? Like, I just know I'm going to get confused and it makes me not want to click. So say there is an interesting offer structure that makes this worth writing. Just do up to 70% off. And then once they click, have a pop-up on the website or have like a call out on the website that says, oh, do you want an extra 20% off in addition to the 70% off? Because that's going to sound like a bonus, right? So you're getting more people clicking because you've made it simpler by just saying 70% off. Once they click, you're even sweetening the deal. You're giving them something that's even more delightful than what they clicked for. So something like that. Or you could just do the calculation. So if you're saying up to, you might as well just have this number be the highest it can be. So you're already saying the up to. So you're already like hedging yourself against... you're already hedging yourself against the fact that you might not be 70%. You're saying up to 70%. So just do the calculation. What is it when you have 70% off, but then they also have the opportunity to maybe get 20% off? What is that final number? And just say that, right? Up to whatever percent off. So that's two ways you could have done it. Just get rid of this extra 20% off, leave it at just 70% off. And once they click, then deliver the extra good news that they can get an extra 20% off, or just do the calculation and just find the final highest possible percentage off number and just say that, and then have the rest of the details on the product page. So if your offer is confusing, explain the instructions on the product page. Don't introduce the confusing elements of it in your email. Use your email just to get them to click. Okay, so why email marketing is critical, especially if you're already running paid ads or other forms of marketing successfully. So email marketing does not replace other forms of marketing. It improves the performance of your other marketing efforts. All right, I just had to close my windows there. That was driving me crazy. So improves the performance of all your other marketing efforts. So let's talk about the trust problem. I touched on this a little bit. So people are hesitant to click on an ad and buy right away, even if they're 100% confident. So this is new. Back in the day, like I could literally just draw a picture or something like that, and then like be like, oh, this is $20 and run like a Facebook ad to it, and people would buy it. Like nowadays, it's gotten so sophisticated, it's gotten so competitive. This doesn't work anymore. Everyone's exhausted by how often they're bombarded with promising solutions to their claims across all platforms, and that making a choice feels overwhelming, even if they want to believe you, and they do want to believe you. So the way to solve this is by becoming a category of one in their mind. And the way you do this is with emails. So let's be 100% honest. You probably aren't the only solution to their problem. If you solve acne, like I talked about earlier with the supplement, there are other ways that they can solve this problem. They could probably find some cream that works. They could probably they'd probably go to the hospital and find something that works. They could probably find other supplements with similar ingredients that works. Like, you just aren't the only solution to their problems. And the brands that win, they know this. They know that they're not the only way to the solution. So what your option is to keep following up until they forget about those other solutions, right? So it's not about being the only solution. It's about existing so forcefully in their minds that they just forget about the other solutions. So if you show up 7 times and the other solution shows up 3 times, even if they're better, they're going to forget about that other solution. They're going to remember you. So someone who finally buys from you has been consuming your emails for months. And you can actually look at this. Go on to Klaviyo, find like 3 people who've bought recently, and then look at how long they've been opening your emails. You'll actually see it's good. Some of them are like 7 months, sometimes over a year. So this is why email marketing lowers your cost per acquisition. You have essentially unlimited opportunities to give people who want to buy an excuse to finally buy. So some more mind shifts about like if you're worried about sending too many emails. These days, everyone uses a burner email. It's like a virtual shopping mall, right? So think about when you buy stuff online. Are you using your work email? You're not using your personal email. You probably have a random email that you only use for buying stuff. And the only reason you go on there is to buy stuff, or if you have to get some like confirmation code or something like that, or you want to track your order for something that you've bought recently. And then while you're doing that, you might get distracted and see some other emails pop up and you're like, oh, let me check what that is. And then you find like some other product that you're interested in. That's how it works. So you don't get any credit for not emailing that list. No one's going to be grateful that you're not bothering them. That email specifically is only for shopping. So they're using a burner email because they're expecting you to email them a lot, right? So this is like a new thing kind of, right? Like back in the day, like you actually did have to worry about that because people would just give you their regular email. And if you bother them too much, they'll unsubscribe. These days, that's not a problem. A lot of A lot of brands still think that that's a problem. They're still in the zone of like, oh, I don't want to bother people. So if you can be one of the first on this new frontier where you recognize that people are using a fake email, you can outcompete all the brands that are worried about sending too many emails. So a lot of people subscribe to your list specifically as a reminder to buy later. So this isn't like, so Shopify isn't like a Shopify store isn't like Amazon where you can add like to a wish list and you have this like centralized place. You're like a very decentralized island in this ocean of the internet. So the only way people can remember where you are is if they like subscribe to your list somehow. So people will literally do this as a reminder to buy later. So maybe the time isn't going to be right for a while. Maybe they're saving up or something. And when the time is right, you want to be existing in their mind because they're specifically asking you to exist in their mind. And number 3, email marketing is a competition with the other emails in their inbox. And the number one way to compete is to show up as much or more than your competitors. So remember those 3 things and stop worrying about sending too many emails. Market variability requires multiple channels. So there's natural variability in all markets. Your ads will crush one week, underperform the next. Instagram updates their algorithms. Social posts will tank and reach. Everything is like all over the place. CPA fluctuates. Email is the one channel that's been consistently reliable since the 90s. Like you have someone's email, you can email them. That's it. The ROI math. You've already paid to acquire the lead, right? You've already paid for that traffic. It costs basically nothing to convert them with email marketing compared to the alternative. You're going to continue paying for ads to reach them versus just like sending emails to reach them, right? So if you've got an e-commerce brand making at least $100,000 a month, if you're not happy with your current email marketing efforts, tap the first link in the description for a free strategy session. I'll only make you an offer if I think I can get you a return on working with me. And yeah, we'll talk soon.